is respect, and primary love language for women is love. Okay? And we talked about how if men don't receive respect, they go crazy, and if women don't receive love, they go crazy. So instead, we decided to, hey, how do we go into the energizing cycle? So how do we actually break out of the crazy cycle and do this better, and then where we can show better respect and better love? And so we're getting to the practical part. Just once again, you don't have to necessarily agree with the whole gender thing. You can still learn to respect and love people in general. And then second part is you don't have to be married. Okay? You could start right now with people who are next to you. Whether that's your kids, whether this is your sister, right? Sisters over there? Right? Parents. All right, so understanding is this. Don't try to fix her. Just listen. So you guys kind of got it. How to be understanding. Closeness and openness are very similar, and one plays off of the other. And understanding plays off of closeness and openness. As you draw close to your wife and are open with her, she will sense that you understand, or at least you are trying to. Remember, the husband is the Christ figure, and the woman is the church figure. And as the church places its burden on Christ, a wife wants to place her burden on her husband. Even if she can't articulate it in these words, your wife thinks of you as that burden bearer. Okay, so she wants to lay down burden. When she comes to you for understanding, it is a compliment. That is a big part of what love is all about. However, when you shut her down or close her down or don't seem to hear what she is saying, it devastates her spirit. So she's coming to you because she believes that you can handle these burdens. But if you're like too busy for her or you dismiss her, you go, oh, you're talking too much, these kind of things, then that could devastate her.
Okay, how you can be understanding husband. The most powerful weapons you have are your ears. Just listen to your wife, and she's much more likely to feel understood. But because his hearing aids are blue, a husband has a major hurdle. To just listen is usually not his strong suit. He is better built to analyze, give answers, and fix the situation. The unaware husband doesn't really decode the message his wife is sending when she comes to him with her problems. Here's an example.
You guys understand? Yeah. So women, they come and they want unload the burden, but the guy is like, okay, you got a problem?
Yeah.
Why? Because guys, they're wired differently.
Yeah.
And so they're good at analyzing, okay, giving answers and fixing. And so what do? They try to fix.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel?
My wife was having a difficult time in her Spanish class during college. I listened carefully as she poured out her problems. Then I said, okay, I got the solution. It's in creating a study calendar and studying a small chunk at a time so you don't get overwhelmed. I'll make it for you.
Okay? So she has an issue. She's like, oh, I'm having such a hard time. So he analyzes it. He's like, okay, I got it. I got the solution for you. Tracy?
When I'm there at the library study people, I just myself laying out a study schedule for my wife. In a few minutes, I had the schedule complete. I looked up, and Sarah was nowhere to be found. Instead, she was on the other side of the library laughing heartily with her girlfriends. I went over to her and asked if I solved her problem. She replied, oh no, not at all, but I just needed someone to listen to me, and now I feel better.
Okay. So do you see? Right? Sarah wanted just to vent and just like someone to understand. But he's like, oh, okay, solution. Let's keep going.
Sarah admired to give my wife just what she needed and understand her. Of course, I went on to try to fix her problem, but by the time I had started on that, she already felt better. You might say I looked down on that one. Later, there were other situations after we were engaged and married where I was guilty of wanting to fix more than listen, and I heard it back.
Right. Okay, so in this situation, it worked out all well, but he's saying there were other times where she just wanted an ear, but I kept saying, oh, how about this, how about this, how about this? You need to fix this, or you need to fix this. And then because of that, there were issues. Okay. So far, can you guys resonate with it? Do you agree? Go back to your groups. Do you have your own personal examples? So let's do 3 guys here, and then let's do us 3, and then 3.
I like it.
You guys resonate with this one? Got into problems.
Talking about how women have to listen to and understood and not fixed.
I always try to.
They just wanted to talk, basically.
Just wasn't listening.
Yeah, and I always want to like,
What,
I'm a problem.
So you could,
Like,
That's
I
all I
man?
I'm a problem.
trying to
I
think
feel
of
like we're
like a specific example.
They come to us like,
I try to do
well,
that
so
all the
it's
time.
stressful.
Which I
Let's
never
look
did.
at
No, I
your
confirm this
your
with the goal.
income.
I wouldn't
Look at let's
say,
punch
like,
in
this
some
is what
numbers.
we're
Should you get it today?
Like, this
Maybe
is
when it
dead
goes
on.
on sale.
Yeah.
How often are you gonna wear it? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like you're like
Now,
analyzing
it's
it.
just
Have already.
It's
Yeah.
just going on a rant. and
Versus
expressing
like,
They would
oh,
talk about
yeah,
this
they
a
have
couple
some
weeks
shoes
ago, where
for
the
it,
best
or
solution is
oh yeah,
solution.
you like that,
Yeah,
or
best
maybe
solution is
you
not
should
the
shop
solution, it's
somewhere else, or
solution.
I don't know.
Unless you're
What women
specifically
think, you know?
asked, what would you do?
Self-validation.
There's no point in provide your insight on how you would handle it.
Right. How do you guys stop yourself though? It's so hard. Like we're wired differently, you
I
know?
push my tongue in the top of my mouth.
Really?
If I ever want to, if I'm feeling the urge to say something, I will push my tongue into the top of my mouth.
Yeah.
It's
Like
hard.
I'll do it right now,
I want to admit, even
but you
within
can't tell.
not this world, but
Yeah, like-
my friends, they will tell you about what's
Saying
going
what you
on.
want to say,
Wow.
which is very powerful.
And you still want
Because
to
the
jump
majority of
on
the time what you're gonna
something.
say is not gonna,
Well,
it's not gonna work
most
out
of
the
the
way
time
you
guys
intended.
do come to other guys for practical.
Any tips, Kevin?
So again,
Any tips on how to,
All they want is
anything that has helped you?
Very common. You can probably throw Jose and probably still get
I
it.
think the best thing is
Just zip it.
It's all good, bro.
It works in
Right?
like
Because I feel like guys go to
like if you're on it,
guys
like
for
all of a lot of
like
people don't want
actually
to
for
talk
help.
too much, but you want to
I don't know,
have
maybe-
like the space.
Maybe that's in my case.
Either that or you also vent
You
out.
have
Like
to
if I were to
discipline
come to you-
and pull back and let
Yeah.
people express themselves.
For you to listen.
Yeah, no, I
It's-
think
it's-
this is
it's-
a good example of like, you try to
I'm
solve
doing
the
that because
client's
like
problem.
I want to see if you have.
I
it.
realize now, like,
We
because I'm doing
each other around for
because I'm bringing
Yeah,
factors in.
yeah, but that's what we do.
Into somebody's
And
venture.
sometimes we feel like, and sometimes we like
The way that has
like,
worked
So they come up
that
to
you
you, this
have
is
to
about
figure out
something
what
you
the
should
issue
you're
is.
thinking,
you vent out.
Which for a lot of people, like,
Or it's not always about
Now,
solving
we
the
think at the
problem.
time, I was thinking, bro, it's
I'm
like,
like, how do I figure out?
let's figure this out.
So in a sense, like we also want to be understood.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's like their
But
big.
with other men,
But with yeah.
because with men, we're in the
Like,
same
you can
I shut off
tax,
problems
like,
with women, or just listen.
like, I need to figure out.
That was.
That's strong.
Yeah. So tying that back to this,
Listening.
Have fun.
That's why we don't like to
The
share
best
and
solution
open up.
is listening to them.
It might show.
You have to like, without your.
Listening to them, that it's all about like listening and understanding them. And only
Getting
then,
to know me.
maybe you can make weakness, but only after. Because I think the
wanna share
problem
that
is that you, I don't think it's
That might change your
but I think
perspective.
you have
Yeah.
to take the time to look at the whole picture.
Like she understood.
Because a lot of times we jump to making solutions before we actually spend the time to learn the whole picture. And I think I do that with Tracy a lot, which is like, I just want to like jump in and, I think the main reason is like, I just want the conversation.
So like at what point is it actually?
But you can sense it in her
Like,
tone.
you consider
You just-
it
you know, you just wait for-
I just jump right into just like,
I will,
what you just
I will
said.
bring it up. Do you want me to listen or do you want me to solve it?
I don't really like to spend the time.
Because you're wired.
I just bring it up.
You're wired that way.
I'm wired to.
yeah, we're wired.
So
No.
just like,
Like, I'm like, I don't have time, so now, that change.
it's a dynamic I've seen in some relationships. Like, you need just
Listen.
This is a
Good one, yeah.
Maybe be
It's
very
hard.
direct, like,
That's the key
solve
thing.
it.
That's
It's
a
a skill.
It is.
And you have to
Or do you want me to solve it?
put the reps in.
Or,
to
No,
master
he
it.
heard my.
You can listen. and then say, do you want a solution or do you just want to vent?
Then you're like, you now have to muscle.
So that way you don't have to worry about what you're thinking. They can just be like, oh, I'm just
And I
gonna
was
listen.
like,
Yeah.
And then once you get to the end, they're like, okay, do you want to know what I think? Or do you
All right, let's come back together. Whose turn is it? Is it Hannah's turn to read?
It's Luis's.
Huh?
What?
Yes, it's
Right?
racist.
You
Alright,
know,
Hannah.
I just work here.
Over the years, I have many ups and downs with being a good listener, but I've listened to my wife comes to me with a burden. I ask two questions. First question is, am I in trouble? My second question is really the most important one. Do you need a solution or a listening ear? Then Sarah can say, and she usually does, I just need you to listen.
So maybe that's a good tip for guys here.
Literally just ask.
No, just ask,
Really
do
good.
you want me to solve your issue? Like, what do you need? You want me to just listen? Or do you need a solution?
So I listen after Sarah. Shared her problem, big or small. She feels better. She goes away feeling understood and loved. The energizing cycle is coming.
Okay, let's keep going. Lee, if you could read one more for us.
In counseling situations and at our conferences, I meet many husbands who don't get it. In fact, trying to fix instead of listening is often a big point of conflict in a marriage. These husbands are still operating with strictly blue sunglasses and blue hearing aids. They are coming at problems like men.
Let's keep going.
Let's say Joe comes to Harry with a problem. Harry knows Joe isn't hoping that he will just listen to him. So Harry says, well, have you tried this? And he lays out the possible solution. Therefore, men, you see, believe they help others by solving their problems. So after helping Joe out, Harry goes home where his wife approaches him with a problem.
Does that make sense? So men know men. So men comes, they're like, oh, you need a solution. They're like, oh, thanks. I didn't think of that. That's great. Okay? So what does men think? Men goes, I'm so good at this. Like, this works. This works. So when this man goes home, then what's going to happen? Goes, oh, it worked for Joe, so it's going to work for my wife as well. Let's keep going.
Oh. Because he had such good luck with Joe, Harry tries to solve her problem only to hear, will you quit trying to fix me and just try to listen? Being a typical male, Harry doesn't like this response much. He can't believe his wife can be so disrespectful and ungrateful. After all, he was only trying to help.
Right, and you see how this is where you get into the crazy cycle then. The guy is like trying to help, and she's like, you're not listening to me. Okay, so she doesn't feel loved, and then so she's like, how come you're not doing it? How come you're not listening? And how come you're not helping me? And he's like, I'm trying to help. Now you're saying you're disrespecting me, like saying I suck or something. I'm not good enough for you. And so again, this happens. Let's finish.
Remember that wives love to talk to release their emotions. Because a woman is an integrated personality, she's like a tea kettle. She collects all the things that have happened to her over the day, and there's a buildup. She needs to release some of these feelings, and I really can't wait until tomorrow.
All right. So let's talk about some of the. Oh, actually, let's keep going. Next.
Sarah and I came to a point in our marriage where our kids were young and the demands of the day were heavy on both of us. So after dinner, we told our oldest son to watch the other two, and we locked ourselves in our bedroom. This 15-minute period was mom and dad's time, and the rule was don't interrupt until we're done. The best thing about those 15 minutes after dinner was that they were predictable. Sarah knew this would be her time to talk to me, to share her feelings.
Okay. So me and my wife, we actually do something very similar. We call it 우리 time. 우리 in Korean, it just means us. So it literally just means our time, right? And so that's the time where we, it's usually on Mondays. We usually go eat together, and there's like specific things that we talk about. Right? So we go, normally it's like, was there something that bothered you this week? Like something I did that bothered you this week? And then we take turns. So it's like more personal stuff. And then after that, it's more like house stuff, like kids, finance, and these kind of things, like things we got to do. Huh? So I really like it because, again, it gives us time to like focus. And then second thing, just like what it talks about, it's predictable. And men like predictability as well. Okay, so try this. And then again, this doesn't have to be just between couples. I told this to my previous church member, 3 sisters in that family, and they did this, and they absolutely loved it, and their relationship, it got so much better. Because there's like you live with somebody and like it builds up, and like there's a time. It's like let's set a time. What's bothering? Like every week we're gonna talk about something that bothered us. It's like let's talk about it, and it gives people permission to talk about these things. All right, so let's give some other examples from from this book. I'll read it. Your wife feels that you are trying to understand her when you listen and can repeat back what she said. Very important. Because a lot of guys are like, uh-huh. Next, don't try to fix her problem unless she specifically asks for a solution. Don't try to identify. You try to identify her feelings. So you go, oh, so you're really sad about this. Or you're feeling this way. You never try to dismiss it. You go, oh, you're being no, you're being stupid. Or no, she didn't mean that. Okay, don't dismiss. And you say, I appreciate you sharing that with me. And you don't interrupt her when she's trying to tell you how she feels. Okay, let's go back. Which one do you think this is important? And then which one do you want to try this week? Okay, get together with your group. Go for it.
Listening and repeating back.
Uri, yeah.
Sometimes I think
appreciate
what sometimes I think about what I still have to do that day. Or like
Which one was the hardest for you? Are those the ones that was the hardest?
So sometimes I'll forget to listen. At any given moment, if you were to ask me to repeat what she's telling me, like
I would say the hardest
oftentimes I can't do it because there's going in here and coming out the other.
I have the hardest time saying, and this is making you sad.
Identifying your feelings.
Yeah. So going back to, oh, I hate Mondays and dislike
Right.
Mondays
I think
because,
that's
or, you know,
it's hard to
kind of like going back to that, you know, trying to really connect to what
Yeah.
she's trying to say.
Uh-huh.
Versus just that blah, 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 blah. You're just
Whereas guys are more like rational
out,
and
like,
objective, yeah.
words, so you can just put it together. I'm like, okay, solve it.
How are you feeling this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. So how does it make you feel? Is there anything that would make it better? That was kind
Lee, how about for you? Is there any one of them that are more difficult than other?
for the most part, it's always
No, I think I might try this, like, setting
you could
aside
change one thing
some
about it to
time
make it better. One way
and just get a line.
oh, there's nothing I can change about it. It's,
Mm.
you know,
The Uri time?
Yeah.
Nice.
and then just rant on.
I see. It made you feel like, oh,
Just go grab a beer.
Or sometimes like, oh, I'm sorry that it makes you feel sad, or I'm glad it makes you happy.
Yeah, repeating back what she said, I think
And then
that's at some point in the night.
That was the
Mm.
being able to, because that forces you to listen and
Yeah.
repeat.
That's hard.
And sometimes like we can even take that a step further and retaining it for like more than just that 24-hour period.
Or you want to grab a
Imagine,
piece of
no, but like imagine you come back the next day and say, hey, how do you feel about what happened yesterday? I bet that would make you feel amazing, you know?
For me, I think what's hard is just,
That lets you know that you.
I think it's all related, but just like this idea of like talking a lot, being open and,
Huh?
I don't know, I'm just not used to it. I grew up with older brother.
Yeah.
And then my mom,
That's what I was trying to say.
I don't know if it's because my mom grew up with 3 guys that she doesn't talk that much. But yeah, she just, like, she's not that verbal. My dad actually talks a lot more than my mom. And so, like, I'm just not used to, like, communicating that. Like, growing up,
Yeah.
and I'm like, hi, and say, hey, how you doing? And it's just like everybody goes there and do their own thing, So I'm just not used to, like, communicating when you get home and, like, talking and, like, sharing your day. So I think definitely, like, the man thing is there, but also I grew up not really communicating that much. I think that's hard for me.
what is it that they do that make you
Yeah,
feel like?
I think my wife grew up in a similar environment with her parents. They don't share a lot of emotions, information or what they're thinking.
Yeah.
And there's like different ways, like certain messages that actually mean something else. Like you have to.
my mom used to buy me these all the time.
For school. They send me to school.
Yeah.
These are the best things you can eat.
My wife
Everybody
there's an Asian or something because I don't have the
They were
same
always
kind of overexpression.
I see. Yeah,
Usually there's like purpose behind it.
I like the ones that are mixed.
I see.
The ones with the trail mix.
What were you saying, Kevin? It's an Asian thing.
That,
There's definitely that. Yeah, I do definitely think that. Like Asians are not very good at sharing their like thoughts and deep thoughts and emotions as much. Yeah, even when I'm doing counseling, it's like I have to almost like pull teeth to like get it out of them. Yeah.
minutes, which is plenty of time, so from there.
Whereas non-Asians are better at articulating their thoughts and feelings. Have you noticed that at all?
Yeah, my wife.
You can't do that for her. I was like, yes, I can. I was like, she needs to understand that. She needs to snack at school. She's
Never in
Yeah.
her whole life, and they've actually
whine and, you know,
never physically
scream about it.
expressed it.
Yeah.
They
What
don't
I've done is
Yeah.
like, tell her,
Like if you go to my
take this
family in
snack
Florida,
and maybe you can trade
everyone
it
hugs,
for another snack.
kisses each other at school. A lot of
Give her business money.
Mm-hmm.
You go to
Yeah.
my wife's side of the family.
If you're going to Capitol Hill, so all the kids there.
Yeah. There's never like any physical connection.
Yeah.
And I think that drives who you are as an adult, and my wife, like, definitely.
But yeah, I remember that's the one time I
Through that barrier.
Yeah.
But sometimes like the other kid could have forgotten their snack.
Yeah.
I said, well,
Yeah.
You know, they provided her with one.
But I would say
And I was like,
also,
oh, she didn't want to take one.
in that relationship, it's, her expectation is that when she says something, it's immediately followed. She grew up
Right.
because there wasn't that emotion.
Yeah.
There wasn't this closeness.
Right.
Something that changes the dynamic.
going to the
Yeah.
fridge,
Yeah.
there's
Like,
apples,
change your expectations.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
there's onions. What do you want?
All right. Let's come back together. So once again, to review, understanding. This is what, again, not all women. Okay. But don't try to fix her. Just listen. This is important. Listen. All right. Let's go to the men's side. I think he just has like bad way of like choosing words. Authority. Okay. Appreciate his desire to serve and lead. All right. And so you got it on the head again. That's what we talked about. All right. Who's the boss? In today's feminist-dominated culture, the question of who's the boss can be a source of conflict. Many men have been cowed by the feminist argument that when men and women are totally equal, and husbands don't have any more authority than wives do.
But for the Christian's couple, the question is, what does the Bible teach about who has the authority in the home? We have already seen previously that Paul lays out the biblical hierarchy of the home. The man is the head, and the wife is to be subject to him. Ephesians 5, chapter 5, verses 22 through 23, and we have seen that the good-willed husband does not try to use his position of head as some kind of club to beat down his wife and his children. He acts responsibly and loving to be the head, to be the leader that God has asked him to be.
Okay, so the Bible does talk about some certain kind of hierarchy and this type of authority, but again, it's not used for oppression, for power, okay, but it's to love them more and to protect. Next.
Many Christian wives are uneasy with subjects like headship and authority. When Paul pens lines like Ephesians 5, he sounds hopelessly sexist, especially to women who have domineering husbands. In recent years, there has been a movement in the church among some scholars and teachers to suggest that the Bible talks about mutual submission. That is, that men and women are to be equally subject to one another. The text that is used for this position is Ephesians 5:21. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ.
Okay, let's keep going.
My theological position is that while it is important that we submit to one another, it also directly says that wives must submit to their husbands. Therefore, that means that husbands have the ultimate call when it comes to decisions that can't be reached.
Okay, so this is a pretty, as you can see, pretty highly debated topic still. Okay, so there's a lot of different views of this. Okay, and there's spectrum. Okay, but this is the author's point of view right here. He's saying, yes, there is this level of mutual submission, and yet there's only two people. Okay, so if one person says this and one person says this, then what's going to happen? Then nothing's going to happen because they're always going to be like this. In that case, he believes, biblically, then man has to choose. Okay, man has to break the tie. Again, there's people who are like, no, that's not biblical at all. But again, I'm not sure. Okay, but I'm giving you different views on what people say. You guys take for what it is. But that's at least his view. Okay, let's keep going. Alex, yeah, as a wife.
As a wife places herself under her husband's protection and provision, there will come moments when disagreements arise. Honest stalemates can still happen. If a decision must be made, the wife is called upon to defer to her husband, trusting God to guide him to make a decision out of love for her as the responsible head of the marriage.
Okay, next.
There is much a husband and wife can do to mutually submit to one another through love and respect. But when somebody has to call the shots, the husband is responsible to do it. How should a wife act if she strongly disagrees with her husband about some issue?
Okay, next.
1 Timothy 2:12 has some advice. Paul writes, I do not allow a woman to exercise authority over a man, but to remain quiet. Now, if Paul ever penned a sexist line, this would seem to be it. But the Bible is not sexist. Is Peter saying that women are insignificant? Of course not. What he is saying is that your quiet and gentle spirit would melt your man's heart.
Okay, next.
If you're in a conflict and you remain respectful and quiet as you distance yourself a bit instead of preaching, lecturing, criticizing, what will he do? If your quietness is the right kind of quietness, respectful and dignified, not pouty and sour, he will move toward you. He will want to comfort you and take care of you. In essence, he will want to show you love. For the goodwill husband, the wife's quiet and respectful behavior will act as a magnet.
Okay, so again, the fear already, again, because of the feminist movement and everything else, and of course the history of men oppressing women for a very long time, again, the immediate fear is, oh, men are going to take advantage of this and do whatever they want. Okay, but again, the whole concept, the biblical concept is you're supposed to use your power to love. So it's servant leadership. It's not king leadership. Okay, so the biblical concept is always servant leadership for men. It's men, you have authority, you have higher hierarchy, okay, but use that to make sure that you are benefiting her. And that's very, very important biblically. Okay, and so again, the whole idea is, again, this line seems very, very sexist on the outside, but he's saying, again, if you are able to submit, and if you're able to, say, hey, I trust you. Okay, this is a difficult matter. Okay, but I trust your decision. Okay, when you give that respect to men, then they will feel loved, and they will feel respected. What do you guys think? Let's get together with our partners. Do you agree with this? Disagree? You hate this? Go for it.
Absolutely hate it. I think it's a horrible idea. Especially if the wife's not educated enough. Yeah, let's say she's a financial person, you have to make a decision, and you are fully capable of doing it, then why would you just take your advice from this? Versus making a financially disastrous decision.
It's just,
I can see your
I think if you go back to the circle,
I mean, granted, you probably talk about it, but ultimately, as a guy,
it's like
you're
there's
still
a
head
thing
of the
of
house,
like,
and you make the decision. I
taking
mean,
your
you
heels
take
in,
your advice and
sometimes
stuff.
they take your heels and prove their point, right?
Even when he
So,
starts like.
If you're really doing your job to fully understand.
I can see where the being.
The partner's
Well, it depends on what their financial, the financial strengths
And it
are.
might be that like.
Because there's men that are more spenders and there's women that are still be a little bit more frugal. And so it depends.
But then again, there's also more to it.
Okay, so I have to say, I think
Versus
it's very
saying,
interesting,
That would have been a
and I
decision.
feel like,
I'm making
I guess like to
For me
counter
to make
that,
was like my daughter being skipped grade.
would you love somebody that disagrees
Would
with
you
you?
as a dad be okay with, yeah,
Would you
let's
love
let her skip a
somebody
grade, or would you be
that
like,
was
no,
against,
because level of emotional maturity is not there?
Is that person more
Well, I mean-
lovable than the person that
So in those type of
disagrees?
I think if you made a decision,
Also, like,
you take everything
are you gonna live in a house?
So whether it be a female or
regardless
male,
if it's
like,
wrong
I
or
feel
what,
like
you've made the
you
best
have to-
effort.
Those
I
type
feel
of
like
some
decisions,
thought behind
it
it.
says
theory
that
is not that
make
women
a
need to be
decision.
like
Effort behind
super
making that
quiet
decision.
and respectful.
And all.
Yeah,
It's
it
a little
is
more to
sort of,
think about,
but
right?
I
Just like
think
you
more
have
It's a
work,
major life
you
decision.
could
way
put all
more
the due diligence or whatever, but
visually
maybe you
people
should try to
kind of yelling at you, or are you more open to somebody coming at you?
if you made the
Also,
effort
the
to do it,
decision
but you
to
So you're more
follow
accepting
precedent.
people that are like. more
The decisions involve
like
Christ
easygoing
in it.
in some ways,
Mhm.
you know?
That's important,
I feel
yeah.
like
I mean, but
that's
I
what
do
you're
As the
saying.
head of the
That's
household,
just
you're
in general.
responsible for making that
And
decision.
it's not saying like women need to be
I never
this
feel
or
like
need to be
my
that, like,
So it's not
I
just
understand
like
where
they
you're
think
coming
it's
from.
like it's a little thing.
But I think it's
even
just
if
in
it's
terms, like, in
that.
general.
I think it's the best
I don't feel bad
way
when
to
making
approach it.
choices.
Putting
Yeah,
God first,
well,
and then saying,
well,
well,
no,
what would God want us to do?
So you take everything into consideration.
Situation.
Like I said, it's up to
I don't think
everything.
it's so bad. And even just
Yeah.
the consequences.
You can also live beyond the means. That's all.
I think that you have to have that kind of positive mentality regarding decision making.
Obviously, like, we're very
So, and then the fact that the
different.
legislation
Like, she's very different, what we know.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
So, like,
that is.
consider it,
Not only that, but it's
like, what
a
he
big
knows.
responsibility too.
That too, because then you have to carry the burden of it.
Exactly.
I just trust like,
Yeah.
wise, like,
And women feel stressed out when they have that
like,
role.
he has to, like,
And sometimes they, you know, they,
I feel like he has to, like, the fact that, like, I'm
Try to
doing
control
this,
power
like, I know more than
relationship. They become powerful. So then they start saying, well, what's the point of you being a man if you can't make a decision? And it's like, well,
Okay, 30 more seconds.
that's something I would So I remember hearing conversations like, you're pulling into this relationship and you decide for everything. And I'm kind of like, well, I do tell you what I do. I do tell you what I think. Make a decision anyway. So how's this gonna help me and quote unquote be the man?
that's why I go back to.
All right, let's continue on. Who was the last person to read? Was it Genesis? Okay, Belin? No? Belin, right? Okay. Sure. Tracy?
Oh, okay. Feminists say that the Bible puts down women. Actually, the Bible holds up women and gives them advice on how to realize their fondest desires. You don't have to fight. You don't have to push and struggle to understand him as you try to move closer, only to have him coldly move away. There is another way out to get his love, and the Bible tells you what it is. Your quiet and respectful behavior will win him. This is the key to empowerment. You get what you want by giving him what he wants.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is true or not, but according to the book at least, because I'm not a woman, I don't understand. But the book talks about how women, when they try to open men up, they think, oh, if I like confront him more, if I like nag at him more, if I complain more, like it'll like motivate him to action. Okay, that's what women think. But that's like the worst thing you could. All the men in here are like cringing because that's the worst thing you could do to a man. You push him to a corner and he will absolutely hate it. Okay, but women think, okay, if I push him to a corner, he'll act and he'll do stuff. But instead, if you let him chill and give him space and say, hey, you'll figure it out. I trust you. Things like that. All the guys are smiling now. Okay, so that's what it's basically trying to say. Okay, the Bible is trying to give you advice about how to open up men rather than trying to close them up and try to go, I'm stronger than you or I'm equal as you. Then guys are gonna not go, oh, you're right. Instead, guys are going to be like, no, like they're going to shut down completely. But if you actually say, hey, I trust you. Hey, I respect your authority. Then they're going to actually use that authority, hopefully, to love you. Let's go to the next one. Abby.
All your husband wants is your acknowledgement that he is the leader, the one in authority. This is not to grind you under or treat you as inferior. It is only to say that because God has made your husband responsible, he needs the authority to carry out that responsibility.
Okay, next.
Wives also often tell me that if they submit to their husbands, it means burying their brains and becoming a doormat. If you want to work with your husband to reach mutually satisfying decisions, most of the time, follow this principle. Go on the record with your husband that you have that you see him as having 51% of the responsibility and therefore 51% of the authority.
Okay, so again, this is not like 99% and 1%. Okay, that's not what we're saying at all. Okay, for most of the time, you should have a dialogue. You shouldn't say, I'm the man. I'm going to make the decision. Woman, be quiet. No, we're not saying that, okay? We're saying have a dialogue, but if it comes like you guys are not going anywhere, then wives, then say, okay, I want you to make a decision because God has made you the authority, the head authority. So I give you, I trust you, I respect you. I know that you want the best for our family. So you make the decision.
And that you've done everything you can possibly do to understand my point of view.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. Okay, so again, this is not, but there are extreme views of this. Okay, there are extreme views of, no, women don't say nothing. Just follow the man, this kind of thing. Okay, and church unfortunately some churches and some groups have used this kind of things to oppress women. But this is not what the Bible is saying, nor what
I
others
think
say.
there's a leap of faith here that your husband is a very, very good person
Yes,
and lives like a Christian life.
right, right.
This all breaks down if your husband's
That's right. That is
not a
correct.
person.
That is correct. Yeah. Yeah. And it is hard because we're not perfect. You know, we sometimes do use our authority or power to try to things like that. Yeah. All right, let's keep going. Next. Hannah?
Once you go on record about his authority, he will not feel you are trying to be the boss. As you submit, you will not be a doormat. In fact, you will get your way far more often than you would if you stood up to your rights, which usually means being disrespectful.
Yeah. So if some of you guys are like, no, this is stupid, this is dumb, this is backwards kind of thing, try this. Try this. Instead of trying to fight your male counterpart, okay, or your, again, parents, your dad, or whatever, your male figures in your life, instead of trying to like stand up to them and fight them, just say, hey, like try to talk to them, have communication with them, and say, I respect, okay, in the end, I know you want the best for me, I respect your decision. And see how they respond. And see if that makes your relationship with your male person much better. Let's go to our last one. Lee.
I often hear many wives complain that their husbands are too disconnected and passive on family matters. But why is he passive? Quite likely in the past, every time he tried to step up to the plate, she had a better idea. After a while, he just let her have her way. If this could be your problem, submission, respect, and quietness will engage your husband and draw him out. This does not put you down or undermine your equality. In fact, it will create real equality.
Does that make sense? So what happens is male and female, they usually get married. And then what happens throughout the thing is man tries to make some decisions and she's like, no, like that's stupid or that's dumb. So what happens? He feels disrespected. So he's like, after a while, then every time he goes, oh, every time I speak up, every time I say my opinion, she disrespects me. So what happens? The man just shuts down. Well, why should I put myself out there and talk about my emotions or my feelings or my opinions? Because every time I do, she's going to disregard it. She's not going to trust me anyways. Okay, so that's what it's talking about here. And that's why if you look at some relationship, like the woman is doing everything in the household. Right? They have a lot of power, they have all of this, and the guy's just like laid back doing nothing. And we normally think, oh, that guy's so lazy and things like that. But perhaps there might be in that relationship something else that's going on there. Maybe because he feels so disrespected that he doesn't feel like he can do anything. Don't expect the men to like be confident and stand up and do stuff if you've been crushing them. Okay, with your words. All right, the wife, guys, men will feel appreciated about his authority and leadership when you tell him you are thankful for his strength, when you support his self-image as a leader, you praise his good decisions. So instead of saying, oh, horrible decision, instead when he does make the right decision, we're like, oh, I'm so glad we went with your choice. I'm so glad, we listened to you and it worked out. Okay, things like that, okay? Obviously, you don't have to lie, okay? You are gracious if he makes a bad decision. So you go, oh, that happens sometimes. Okay, but instead of saying, you see, we went with your choice and I told you it was stupid. Okay, why did we do that? Okay, those kind of things, again, it's going to deflate him. You disagree with him only in private and honor his authority in front of the kids. Very important. You give your reasons for disagreeing quietly and reasonable, but never attack his right to lead. Okay, so you could disagree, but not in a manner where it's like, you're dumb. Okay, how dare you do that? Okay, things like that. But it's like, how about thinking this way? Okay, what do you think about this? Or it's like, oh, you lost the privilege. Give me that Give me your 1%. I'm gonna take 2% away from you. I get the 51%. Things like that. Okay, you don't want to do that. Say that. You don't play headed games with him to make him back down or be a loving peacemaker. Okay, what do you guys think? Go back. Which one of these? For some of you guys, which one of these is difficult for you to do? For some of you guys, which one are you wanting to hear in your heart? Go for it.